is that it tells us that our intelligence services have assessed
You don't want to panic. He might be busy.
Dangerous, so they clearly know that something is up.
And we'll be returning to that conversation in a few moments. We interrupt to bring news that the Ministry of Defence has reported what it refers to as a number of large order detonations in the seas off the coasts of Syria and Turkey. No details or confirmation of these reports attributed to local NATO observers have been received as yet, but it is understood that one of these attacks was targeted against key supply vessels carrying fuel and ammunition to NATO forces. We believe that there is footage of the attack from a military observation vessel, and we hope to have that shortly. In further breaking news, the government has taken control of British Airways and all cross-channel ferries. They say it's a temporary step to help move troops to Europe. Thousands are stranded at Heathrow and Gatwick, and the Royal Navy is to guard the North Sea oil rigs. The MOD have described it as a prudent precautionary measure.
What do you mean the rigs?
And in a further dramatic development in the growing international crisis, Russian troops have crossed the border into Estonia and Latvia. International observers have reported a significant incursion involving an estimated 75,000 Russian troops and a number of tank divisions and missile regiments. Heavy fighting has been reported along the border areas, but Russian forces have broken through and settled the capitals of both countries.
Putin?
Russia.
An estimated 15,000.
So why them? What have they done?
Making it unlikely that any significant defence of the territory can be achieved. Russian heavy armour divisions have surrounded the strategically important cities of Narva and Voru in Estonia and Krasnana in Latvia in an attack led by elite Russian special forces. Russian troops and heavy armour divisions based in Belarus and in the Soviet enclave of Kaliningrad have also been massing across the border of Lithuania, with incursions of Russian fighter and surveillance aircraft already being reported in Lithuanian airspace.
Take the kids upstairs.
The national
Take the kids upstairs.
has declared a state of emergency.
Up you go, Grace. Grace.
NATO support in defending
In 5 minutes, Dad's going to bring you one up.
in Washington,
What are you doing, Dad?
session of the United Nations Security Council is underway, and the Russian ambassador to the United States is currently meeting with senior officials at the White House in what is being described as a frank and earnest exchange of views about the growing international crisis. In Moscow, Russian
nuclear weapons already.
defended the actions of his military.
What do you mean they've used them? How have they used them?
Already.
Provoked
On who?
beyond measure by years of political
The
and
naval
military
fleets,
protest
British
by
naval
Western
fleets,
nations,
were
and at
30
the
odd
time
miles
has
away
come to
from
assert
bloody
its right to
Fastly.
defend legitimate cultural and political
Guys, come on.
interests in former Soviet countries.
2 minutes.
It is not known whether the US president has had any direct contact with his Russian
They probably won't have their
counterpart,
phones on them
or
anyway.
whether the so-called hotline between the White House and the Kremlin,
From where?
since the Cuban Missile Crisis, has been used since the conflict
What's
started.
that?
Press the button already.
What's that?
President, the US Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, plus a number of other key political and military leaders, have left Andrews Air Force Base in Air Force One and are likely to remain airborne until the crisis has stabilised.
Air Force One? Is that the president?
DEFCON 2,
Air Force
bringing
One, the
all
president?
American strategic nuclear forces to a high state of readiness and sending America's strategic
He's been
bomber units
evacuated as
to
well
their
as the Queen, so
assigned
they're all right, they're all
across the
safe.
globe.
So they're in bunkers
All remaining
underneath?
vessels
Aye,
of
very
US
good.
submarine
Innit?
fleet
So where were you going then?
joining an already substantial contingent of naval vessels in international waters.
In the UK, military and civilian
What the hell's that?
authorities
Look,
are
look, look.
continuing their preparations to respond to the growing crisis. All non-essential and elective surgeries
Oh
have
my
been
God, what's that
cancelled
saying
by
now?
the
Look, what's that saying at the bottom?
Hospitals
US
are being cleared
President.
of non-critical patients to make way for potential casualties in the event of a
So where's that, Dad? Where's that at the moment?
A number of American B-52 long-range bombers and B-2 stealth
What's Theresa May
aircraft
appeals
have
for
been
Cam?
seen
Theresa
in
May
RAF
appeals for
airfield.
Cam?
Primary forward staging base for the
Mayor?
United States
British
Air
Prime
Force
Minister
strategic
Theresa May
assets in
appeals
the
for
UK.
Cam. US, what's that,
It
SAA?
is not known whether the bombers will
See,
be engaging
airborne
directly
commands.
in the conflict off the coast of Syria, or whether they will be
Who you
deployed to the
messaging?
Baltic states to defend Latvia and Lithuania against the Russian
And we
military
don't
invasion.
text him because if he's
B-2
coming
bombers
home,
What's that? Where's that? Where is this? I don't know where this is.
Staying airborne
Doesn't
for
say.
long periods during the
Where's-
conflict.
Where's that?
American AWACS surveillance aircraft, along with several airborne refueling
NATO
aircraft,
said
have also
confirms over
left Aviana
2,000
Air
troops
Force
killed
Base
and over
to support
800
military
Oh my God.
unaccounted for. This is no
The
joke.
Polish government has expressed their concern about the accumulation of Russian
That's got
forces
nothing to
along
do
its
with
northeastern border
Estonia.
with
It's nothing to
Belarus,
do with it. This is a
fearing any push towards Germany, and in doing so reclaim any regions in this country that used to be under Soviet control. Poland for many years has permitted NATO early warning and defence missile systems on its territory.
So what
These are likely to be targeted by Russia in any significant move of its army towards Western Europe. Large-scale evacuations have already been reported in Warsaw and Krakow, prompting fears that the movement of people away from major cities might interfere with the deployment of troops and military vehicles to key defence positions.
Where's that? Where's that, Dad?
All civilian and commercial air traffic in the region has been suspended.
Because you know better, I don't have a clue, so it doesn't really update you.
Have been initiated by the Polish government. Asia's anti-ballistic missile system, in the early stages of its implementation in Poland,
Who is?
has been
Russia?
activated, although it is unclear how effective.
But then who's going to let them
should
do
Russia
that?
launch a large-scale nuclear first strike.
Who?
And we can
Look at the size of us compared to them.
correspondent Sophie Jones, who was stationed with the British Naval Fleet somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea.
But have you seen the size of
Not
Russia?
allowed to give any details of their exact location at this time. And we believe that they have updated information about the type of weapons used by Russia against NATO forces. Sophie, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Sophie, joining us on the call is our military advisor, Sir Norman Fairchild.
Dad, drink your drink,
First,
Anita.
can you tell us as much as you can about latest developments in the conflict?
Well, things have been moving very quickly from what started earlier today as a rumour that Turkish forces had fired on Russian jets to a situation where NATO and Russian forces have been firing directly on each other. As you know, there has been a significant presence of British and US warships and aircraft carriers in the region because of the ongoing conflict in Syria, but no one had anticipated that the situation could change so quickly, and there has been a great deal of confusion as NATO forces have tried to respond. We've already seen
Meeting
footage
Turkey,
of
aye.
Russian warships
Amora
firing
and the
precision-guided
boys.
missiles, and we can report significant losses of NATO vessels and Navy personnel as a result. US and British warships have been returning fire and sorties of fighter aircraft
James.
are engaging with Russian forces, and as you can imagine, casualties are significant.
Sophie, we believe
What's that now? What's that saying now?
recorded not long ago, which we
what's
are
it saying?
keen to share with our military expert. Can you tell us something about this?
Russian forces seized
Yes, we
control
do
of
have footage from a stationary camera on board a NATO observation vessel, which was sailing close to a supply convoy carrying
That's what it says.
ammunition and military equipment, which of course is critical to the ability of NATO forces to sustain this battle. We understand that Russian submarines have been
James,
using their torpedoes
put it back,
against
please.
supply convoys,
Thank you.
as well as warships and
Where's that,
aircraft
Dad?
carriers. But what is significant here is that in each case a massive explosion has occurred, almost too big to describe. We have thought the torpedo had struck an ammunition storage vessel.
Where?
But the fact that we have had at least 3 such explosions reported suggests
Look,
that
look,
this
look,
is not
look.
the case.
They said they're going to bring it live in a minute.
Take now, you'll see a distant view of the
Oh my
supply
God.
convoy, partially masked by one of the fuel tankers in the foreground, a couple of kilometres or so away from the camera. What happens then is just incredible. It seems to be a huge detonation underwater.
Oh my
The blast
God.
itself was at least a mile
fuck's
so
that?
wide and must have wiped out at least 20 or 30 vessels in one go.
Nuclear missiles.
Let's go straight to our military expert for his view on this incredible footage. Can you tell us what type of weapon you think the Russians are
Probably
using
hit
here?
a ship.
Well, I
with
have to
weapons.
say that this is very disturbing.
Oh my God.
This
Is that
not
going to
a
wipe that ship out?
conventional torpedo by any means, and there is no
That's a
doubt in
nuclear
my
weapon.
mind
There he is.
that
There's a
Russia
That's a
are using a
mushroom.
nuclear
That's a cloud. And then there's a blast. It sucks all the oxygen out.
I strongly suspect that they used a T5
You would see that
nuclear
from
torpedo,
Cyprus.
which generally
Look at
has a
that.
weight of around 10 to 20 kilotons,
What a big
and
game.
certainly would
Oh
be
my
capable
God,
of
that's the same one. No,
delivering
that's
the
the
type
same
of
one.
impact
Is it not
we've
just
seen in this
repeating that?
footage. And I have to say that this brings us into a completely different type of game. There is absolutely no way that NATO can compete against this type of weaponry by relying purely on its conventional
it's done.
forces. So the question is how they will choose to respond in light of these developments.
You know what?
What the fuck's
We're
that?
just receiving reports that the Russian Air Force has bombed several military installations in Poland, and that Russian
Poland,
tanks
Arena.
and heavy armoured divisions have crossed
Theresa
the
May
border
said
in
she would press
Belarus
the
to
button. She
Poland,
better fucking
just
hurry
west
up.
of the city of Brest, which must surely mean that they will push directly towards the city of Warsaw.
That's she. Did she say she pressed the button? What button? What bloody button?
NATO Central Command confirms Russian invasion of Poland.
Sir Norman, what is your assessment of the situation given this latest news?
Where the hell's that?
I can't say that it's especially surprising, but clearly this is a very worrying development. and there can be no doubt now that this is part of an orchestrated and premeditated strike by Russia against the West. The situation is on a knife edge. NATO will have to respond, but we've clearly been caught napping. The West is totally unprepared for this type of scenario, and the willingness of Russia to use battlefield nuclear weapons is likely to force the hand of NATO military leaders to respond.
Where's that? Oh my god, what the hell's that? What the hell is that?
Russia is far better prepared.
This is the Russians.
So I think we're in serious trouble here.
That's what he's saying.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's continue the commentary, but we have breaking news of a significant explosion at Dales in Yorkshire, the home of Britain's ballistic missile early warning system, in what appears to be the first direct attack against UK forces on British soil.
They've done it already.
Done what?
Fucking done it already.
On Kiel Air Force Base in Greenland and on Clear Air Force Station in Alaska from what appears to be submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Sir Norman, this is clearly a strategic move by Russian military commanders.
Yes, all of these military bases are part of a network of early warning radar systems designed to detect a nuclear launch against the West and to help to target incoming nuclear warheads. NATO has quite a substantial anti-ballistic missile system, but it relies on accurate targeting. So without these advanced radar capabilities, it will be more or less shooting blind. It's pretty clear that we're going to get into a real shooting match very soon, so I think we should...
And who's that? Who's this?
Because things
Alex.
go wrong very quickly.
This is not good.
We never get involved in it.
Of course they get well done.
The environment in which we meet today is dark. This nuclear saber rattling of Russia is unjustified.
What's the saber attack?
It's destabilizing and it's dangerous. And this is something which we are addressing, and it's also one of the reasons why we now are
what do you mean go north? Go, what now?
readiness and the preparedness of our forces. And
you're finished.
we are responding
You're finished. If they hit fast lane, you're
by
finished.
making
That's where all
sure
the
that the
nuclear
NATO in
weapons
the
are.
future is an alliance which...
Goodness will prevail over the forces of destruction.
And we've just had more breaking news that thermonuclear bombs of undetermined strength have exploded at NATO regional military headquarters in Brussels and at a major US military and radar base in Wiesbaden, Germany, resulting in the reported destruction of the city of Mainz and the outskirts of Frankfurt.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, fuck.
Shall I go and get another vodka?
No. I want to know what's going on here. This has never happened since World War II. Never.
This is an emergency broadcast from the BBC. Confirmation of a nuclear attack against this country has been received. Please stand by for further information. This is not a test.
That's even funny, by the way. So what happens now?
Jump in the car and get to hell out of here.
To where? To where?
An emergency broadcast from the BBC. Confirmation of a nuclear attack against this country has been received. Please stand by for further information. This is not a test.
It's not a test, it's only going to repeat itself. You're in the firing zone. Tara, come in.
This is an emergency broadcast from the BBC. Confirmation of a nuclear attack against this country has been received. The threat level is extreme, meaning that a major attack is imminent. All airports and motorways have been closed for military use. Non-essential telephone lines have been disconnected. Civilians are advised to stay indoors. Please stand by for further information.
I've been drinking.
Do you want to? I don't give a fuck. You can laugh. Fast lanes down the road.
Emergency broadcast
Go
from the
north.
BBC.
What do you want to do?
Confirmation of a nuclear attack against this country has been received. The following locations have been identified by radar tracking as primary targets.
Fucking
London,
email.
Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, Portsmouth, Glasgow.